Hi,
Hi.
Melisa. How are you?
How are you?
I'm good. Where are you?
So I am in a an apartment with a cat that is very chatty.
Oh,
So hopefully he might be part of the conversation.
I mean, I have two, and it could be part of ours as well. And also, like, my
Okay.
roommate's going to be like coming in at some point. Like, it's okay. We'll stay as
All
focused as
right.
we can.
All right. Cool. He's just very chatty though. But
Yes.
anyway. Um Yeah, how are you doing? I haven't been in the last few meetings, maybe the last two meetings.
I have
How are
missed
you?
several, but I was there this week, and
Okay.
yeah, I'm pretty well. It's been an eventful time, uh, both sort of personally and just navigating being a singer in December again. And I mean, New York is like crazy again. Tourists everywhere, and it's all for the good, I guess. But it feels harder than it used to. Like I feel more tired.
Same.
Um, yeah, yeah.
And
But is
I
that
wasn't really getting a lot of stuff, and it all kind of hit me at the same time. And I was like, I can't do this. No.
have you been busy with lots of singing things this month, or other things, or a combination?
Singing things and teaching also a lot. I took on a lot of other kinds of teaching
Okay.
from what I was doing before. I stopped that job, but then I started getting some other teaching jobs. So all at the same time, and like family stuff happening. So
Are you
and
teaching
me like
classes?
trying to enjoy my life again, huh?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Are you teaching classes or do you have private students or?
I started working for a Brooklyn music school, and
Cool.
some of the classes are with groups, like small groups, and some of them are one-on-one.
Gotcha.
Um, yes.
Nice. How
Um,
that felt.
it's going well. I mean, like I'm actually so glad I had this other experience where like the setup was horrible because then
Right.
I'm like more grateful now for and I just able to better manage um a better situation, even though like every I feel like every teaching job requires an adjustment period. um I just feel like a horrible setup at first kind of just made me more prepared for a better setup in advance. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Good.
um anyway, I don't have another device with me because this is not my place.
Right.
So like if I look at the questions, I have to get off the video and go to my email. um
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, I have it all up. So if you, I mean, I'm happy to sort of go through the questions and then either we can both answer them or we can say skip or
okay,
whatever. But but yeah, you can just
great.
stay where you are if you'd like.
Okay,
Cool.
sure.
Well, I guess I'll just go through them and put you on the spot completely since you don't have it in front of you. But um,
Okay.
cool. So the first one was using three sentences. What is Queen's Voice Lab to you? Um,
Oh,
and I can also go
okay.
first if whatever, as you choose.
Okay. Do you want to go first? I
Uh,
would.
sure, if you want a minute to think about it.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay, yeah.
sure. I mean, I think for me, Queen's Voice Lab has been sort of an unexpected lifesaver, honestly. Um, I did feel, admittedly, a little resistant at first, only because it felt kind of amorphous. And I am such a type A personality that I was like, we're having these 2 hour meetings. I don't know what they're for, what we're doing.
Mm.
But when I realized that it was this unbelievable source of community and a place for us talk about our lives in the pandemic generally, but also to talk about things that are very specific to what we do as singing artists. I just really leaned in to this amazing network of people. Um, I don't know how many sentences that was, but
That was
we're gonna let that
great.
be. We're gonna let that be my answer.
That was nice. Yeah, like same. So I don't want to give the same answer, but I mean, I feel like most of us would say very similarly. QVL has been, it's unexpected what it turned into, because initially it was not supposed to be a virtual meeting of brilliant, creative, and willingness, people willing to be open to any conversation. It wasn't supposed to be that. It was supposed to be working on music and I guess giving each other feedback, but we somehow just created a group of people who were able to talk to each other freely, um, about whatever was going on, including like anything happening in their day, all the way to an issue that bothered us within our industry. Um, and it became a very safe space.
Hmm.
Um, I felt like I could say pretty much anything that I wanted and that I wouldn't be judged for it. Um, and I felt like even if somebody couldn't relate to me, they wanted to hear me. Um,
I'm so glad to hear that
so
because I feel like I knew more people in QVL when we started than you did. So it was already like inherently a little bit safer space for me, and I'm
mhm.
glad that you felt so open right away.
Yeah, it was so weird. Like I just started vomiting out my thoughts like on day one. And I was like,
Yeah,
I don't know anyone here except Kelvin and Kathy, but it feels right. I don't know why.
yeah,
Uh and it was right, like I don't regret sharing anything with all of you. Um
yeah, same.
okay.
Awesome. So now we just have, instead of three sentences, it says now using three words. What is Queen's Voice Lab to you?
Mm.
I'm going to let you go first so I don't steal yours.
Oh, you're gonna want mine because it's gonna be community.
Yeah.
Um Safe space, and I would say it's not one word. Just I felt artistic brilliance. I don't know. Everyone, that's not a one word either. But everyone is just so inspiring in the group. And like I feel like I'm smarter around you people.
Well, so
You guys are,
inspiration, I think, is your third word, right?
yes, inspirational. Yes, yes, yes.
Love it. So I was going to say
Okay.
community also. So that one's the same. And then I was going to say support
Hmm.
and solidarity. Like I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I it hasn't all been about us getting like fired up about horrible things that have happened to us, but there has been a fair bit amount of that, and I just
Mm-hmm.
feel like I really feel like everybody has each other's backs in a way that is really beautiful.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Juggery.
Um, this one is hard, and I took a couple notes, but I have like the most meandering answer. The next question is, what do you think the mission of QVL is? Um,
You want to go first, or you want to skip this one?
no, I mean I'm happy to talk about it, but basically I'm happy
Okay.
to say that. Well, not happy to say. I will say that I don't really actually quite know what the answer is yet, um, which I think is fine. I think it has been such an evolving thing. Um, I don't know. I mean, I may have touched on this even already, but I feel like there are some things that we have talked about in the group that have felt very universal to the human condition, um, but then some things that are very specific to being a freelancer, and then some things that are very specific to being specifically like a vocal, like an artistic vocal freelancer, you know? Um,
Mhm.
and I think like articulating what is unique about what we do. I don't know, like so many of us have so many different employers, for example, and in many cases, like it's not your standard corporate structure. Like there isn't an HR department. There isn't like a corporate culture, for better or worse, of like what safe spaces should look like and like who we should go to when
Mm-hmm.
we don't feel safe for whatever reason, you know? And I feel like that is, I'm looking at my little notes here. But yeah, you know, some jobs we do have unions, some don't. Um, some have very specifically outlined COVID masking and testing protocols for us or for the
Mm-hmm.
audience members. Some don't. You know, it's like everywhere we go, we're expected to show our best selves and in many cases our most obedient selves and
Mm-hmm.
not really rock the boat even when things aren't awesome. You know, I feel like that's something we've talked about so much in QVL. And I think I don't know what the mission of QVL is, but I do think it is so far it has been like digging into those issues and those things that are hard for us specifically to be our best selves, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the mission is to keep talking about those things and then eventually figuring out how to make some of those things better. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but that's really what's sort of driven home for me is like, yeah, we do such a weird and specific thing, and so few of us like you know work full time for one house. I mean, that is such a rarity.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if you're in like the Met Chorus or something, but
Mm-hmm.
most of us are making these lives that are just pieced together with so many different sets of criteria and so many different demands. And like,
Mm-hmm.
how do we make that work for ourselves, and how do we feel okay doing that?
Yeah,
So I guess those were all
totally.
the thoughts that were kind of stirring in my head. I don't know if it answered the question, but
Yeah, I think it did. Definitely. It is a little tricky to answer it because we didn't know what we were doing when we started.
yeah,
But actually, I feel like the whole concept of doing something without a specific goal is sometimes the best thing that you can do, or it's actually something you need the most
yeah,
because, we when do you ever like hop on a meeting and like you don't have to prepare anything and you just come as you are, just because you want to be around the people in the meeting? Like there's no other opportunity for that, you know?
right,
Um, and in general, I mean, obviously we were going through this in such a difficult time for all of us. Um, in general, I just find that doing something without a goal is very healing. So, for the sake of enjoying it while it's happening, you know.
yeah,
So I think that enough is kind of what the mission became, just like to meet for the sake of meeting, to talk for the sake of talking and nothing else. Um, and then furthermore, what you were saying about all these things that we've been able to discuss, uh, we do talk about it, and maybe we haven't. We do talk about like the issues we encounter in like the vocal world, performing world. And I feel like even though we haven't necessarily like produced a document or anything, you know, I feel like, I mean, you tell me if you've had this experience, because we have the availability to like check in with each other about something. I just feel empowered, like, oh, I talked through how maybe I can work out this little problem with, this email I have to write, or maybe I really don't have to say yes to this gig because now I feel like validated in how I'm feeling from talking to all of you. Um, and I feel like it's almost been like a testing ground in a way to actually get actually validate what we see wrong or what we find difficult in our industry, and have it validated by other people who are, doing the same things, feeling the same way, realizing I don't feel this way by myself. um and then yeah, and then I can put it into practice when it happens to me. Like, you know what I mean? So I feel like
Yep.
it empowers, I guess, one of the missions could be to empower artists to like better find their voice in an industry that is sometimes difficult to do that in, ironically, as a singer. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I would
Yeah,
say.
even if we haven't created like super broad out in the world advocacy goals yet, I do
Right.
totally agree that we have been advocates for each other. And I
Mm-hmm.
also agree that I have been able to say no to some things that didn't feel right because of my conversations with you all. And yeah, I've been able to word emails better about what I need from a gig. Like that's definitely been
Right.
a part of it for me too. I think that's
Yeah.
really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, Shall we do another question?
Yeah, we're doing so good.
I know we really are. So it says about the traditional hierarchical model of the arts world, and with as few names and identifying information as possible. tell me about tell me about a challenging time where you felt you could not engage in your highest artistic self or achievement. It's a big
Hmm.
question.
Wow. Do you have something for this already?
I do. It's not like I don't have a really inspired answer. I feel like the thing that I talk about all the time is like housing on gigs, like homestays and like
Okay.
hotel situations. So that's the one that immediately jumped to mind for me, where like I don't know if this is in the like traditional hierarchical model of the arts world, but I do think that there is something something that employers feel is a little bit exceptional about singers in a bad way. Meaning
Mm,
that I do feel like, in terms of like hotel situations, I think singers are asked more often than many other professionals to like room with someone else.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I just think about that all the time. Like, if you were hiring a professor or a consultant to like go to a conference, you would never be like, "Hey, yeah, you can come, but you have to like room with somebody." You know, like it's just
With
not
another professor.
right. Like it's just not a thing in any other field, but it's a little bit more commonplace in what we do than seems right. Um, and I don't know. It's been a sword that I've been willing to fall on. Like I have definitely turned down some gigs and been like, nope.
Uh-huh.
Like either we all get our own rooms or no, thank you.
Yeah.
And I did change the policy for one ensemble, which I feel very proud of. From
Wow.
here on out, like we always have our own rooms, but
Nice.
and I don't know because but again, like you don't want to be like the pain in the butt singer, but you want to also like stand up for yourself. Like it's such a hard line, right?
Yeah.
And so I felt more comfortable to do that. Like you feel more comfortable in a situation where you are really comfortable with the powers that be, or where you have the luxury of not really caring if they don't hire you again, right?
Right.
Which is a
Mm-hmm.
luxury,
Mm-hmm.
for like a young struggling singer. You're afraid to stand up for yourself, and I
Totally.
hope that can change. But we've also talked a lot in the group about like the homestay situation, and there are times when it's lovely when you're staying with a donor or a patron, and it could be everything you ever wanted in a place to stay, but
Mm-hmm.
you have very little agency in that choice. And also, if you do have a host who really wants to like engage with you a lot, and that's not your personality style, then you feel like you're sort of working two jobs.
You're
You feel
never
like
not working.
yeah, you're still on even when you're home or relaxing or whatever because you have to be something for these patrons, especially if they are big patrons of the organization you're working for.
Right.
Um, so I don't know. I just feel like those are situations where it's hard to be your best. I think a lot of non-artists are surprised at how many artists are introverts.
Hmm.
And I think many of us are. And I think we like really value that part of the day where we can just shut the door and
And
not
don't
have to
talk
be
to
anything to
anyone.
anyone else.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's just an assumption that like, oh, well, you perform on stage. You must just be you want to be around people all the time, and it's not true for so many of us. Um,
Right.
so I guess that's my again, I don't know if I'm answering the question, but that's what came to my mind.
Right. Yeah.
um,
Uh yeah, I have some thoughts uh also, but I don't know if it's representative of like issues in the hierarchy of the structure of an opera company. But obviously like I've brought up very often, I guess from time to time, doing like more modern stuff, or maybe saying like I hate modern opera, something like this, or it's rarely good, maybe.
uh-huh.
um I just have stumbled upon so much like workshop of new works, like premieres of stuff, and I feel it's such an issue, like companies trying to throw together a new piece as if it was like one of the classics that everybody already knows, like not dedicating the amount of time to a brand new work that is needed. And then in turn, the singers just get so overworked and worn out in a very small chunk of time.
Mm,
And that's one thing that has happened to me a lot. And, when you're doing like, so a lot of this also happened when I was like doing like young artist programs. So not only are they paying you so little,
right.
but you're basically, I mean, we get taken advantage of a lot, obviously, when we do a young artist program. But then when you have to do a new work, you really are being used, like, to get something on its feet for the first time, uh, as cheap labor. So, um, I've had issues where the music is like vocally destroying. It's like it's not written in a healthy way
Hmm.
for the voice, and that's something that can happen when you're doing a brand new work, or somebody is just writing an opera for the first time, or you know so i had I've had a lot of situations like this, but I had this one situation where, you know first of all, you usually sometimes can't even get the music when you accept the contract like the year before.
Right. They
You
probably
don't
might
even
not
know what
have
you're
written it yet. Yeah.
right. You don't even know what you're signing up for. And then when you get it, the sometimes in my case, like the composer was still working on it, switching things up. And so like the amount that you have to sing to learn this Schoenberg type music, you're like,
Right. Sure.
to really pound it in, because, I don't have perfect pitch. I don't know where to grab these notes from. Uh, it's just like for me, like four times the amount of practice required. So,
Right.
and I at one point like almost completely destroyed my voice from one of these contracts that I had, where they had a certain amount of rehearsal planned, and once they put us together, like they wanted us to rehearse the music for a week, and once they put us the cast all together, they noticed that the music wasn't coming together. So they started putting us like for 12 hours of rehearsal a day. And we still had a performance coming up, and I was like, this we shouldn't have to do this because of your poor management of like your expectations of how this was going to go. Like once you saw the music, you should have seen, okay, maybe we're going to have to do a reduced version of this or something, because this music requires more rehearsal than putting up a traviata. Come on, like so
Well, right. And if, I mean, maybe your contract didn't specify the number of hours, but like maybe it should have. And maybe that should be a thing they're not allowed to change, because that's
right.
really damaging.
Yeah.
I wonder if opera could learn like a lot more from and I know some companies do a lot of like sort of workshop phase, but I feel like that's so built into the musical theater process where
Mm.
like you'll do workshops with actors and then you'll do like an out of town trial and then then there'll be cuts and then you'll have a new period like obviously not every opera is going to like the equivalent of Broadway, but like the trajectory of a Broadway show is usually it's like in development for like 2 or 3 years before it actually sees a Broadway performance, you know? And I just wonder if opera companies could do
Right.
something more like that.
We should, the music is often more difficult. Why wouldn't
Sure.
we? Like, why do we spend so much time on the acting? We're yes, we are like also actors, but I don't understand. It boggles my mind why we
Yeah,
wouldn't spend more time on music. I don't
right.
get it.
Well, and also again for what you were discussing, like if you're going to do a premiere of something, there needs to maybe be a more hard and fast deadline for like when the score is done.
That's the
Like
other thing.
the score is done, 4 months before the actors convene for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever that number is, so that they actually have time to learn it. Because it's not just that you were rehearsing for 12 hours a day, but you're also like it's not in your voice because you
Mm-hmm.
don't know it yet. So that's even more tiring. It's not just
Yeah.
that you're singing that many hours; it's that you don't have it worked in because it's they just wrote it. Like
Right. You're also singing it on horrible technique, so you're killing yourself even more because you don't know, you don't have it in your throat yet.
totally,
So it's just a disaster.
totally,
Anyway, and you can't say anything because you're a young artist. You're so happy to be there.
exactly, exactly. Oh goodness. Um, I mean, we have a few more. You want to keep going through the questions?
Sure. I think so. Do
Cool.
you?
Yeah, I do. Um,
Okay.
so let's see. Please tell me about the earliest communities you can remember who encouraged you to grow in the arts. How did your time in these communities contribute to you wanting to join QVL? It's an interesting question.
Oh boy. I haven't encountered anything like QBL prior, honestly.
No, I mean that's my answer too. The only thing I could think of was, I did love being in, like choirs and shows and stuff like that growing up. Like
Yeah.
I was the like theater nerd and the choir nerd in school, and like those were my
Mm-hmm.
people. Um, so that I won't. It's not the same kind of community as QVL. It didn't have that like sort of advocacy bent or like just like the full kind of support that I feel here, but it was at least a place where I felt like I could be myself more than other places. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I wouldn't say that it's like a direct link to me like wanting to join QVL because I had no idea what I was getting into, like we've discussed, and I didn't know like really
Right.
what it would be like. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
I I would say like there's definitely always community when you do a show like with the cast.
yeah,
And when things are disorganized with the company, we all talk smack about the company together. We bond over that, right?
totally.
But like I feel like when it comes to issues with like inclusion and equality and stuff like that, that's not something I've ever like, if I was doing a show somewhere in a summer festival and like we all slept in the same general area, like we would complain about how the schedule got to us at midnight. We wouldn't also like talk about like, oh, this is how I feel as like a Hispanic artist. Like I felt some type of way today about how I was treated in the rehearsal or something like that.
Right.
I've never had the opportunity to discuss with other artists before. Um, so that's been something I needed. I didn't know I needed.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. And on the flip side, it's pointed out how few of those things I've had to deal with and what an unfair privilege that has been, you know. But it's really good to be made aware of how my other artists are doing and feeling,
hmm hmm
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's different, and I have no setup. And this is QVL is going to be impossible to top. I don't think I'm ever going to find something like that again. Yeah.
Exactly.
hmm
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think I've always been drawn to more of the like communal side of music making. Like there was a time when
Mm.
I thought I was a pretty serious pianist when I was growing up, and there was a time that I thought I might go more in that direction, but A, I don't think I was good enough, and B, like the prospect of just spending like 7 hours a day in a practice room
By yourself.
by myself, yeah, like I just, I, and even now, like most of my career is not as a soloist. Like most of what I do is like chamber music. Like I just really, that's why I love it, is like bouncing ideas off of other people. So I've always been
It's
really,
so much more fun
yeah,
than
totally.
being a solo pianist. No, what a drag.
I know, right?
I used to date a solo pianist. He was miserable.
I'm
Um,
sure. Oh,
anyway.
goodness. Okay. Tell me about a time that you thought of forming a community, band, ensemble, study group, book club, whatever.
Oh,
And please feel free to share any successes and challenges.
oh boy. I've thought about forming so many communities and I've never done it. They just don't realize that this just never happens. I actually started a very small community of young people going for walks together.
Uh huh.
Um, and the purpose was like just to be outside in nature together, and not like, because I there's so many like running groups,
Yep.
and I love those as well. But I didn't want to do it like as a sport. To kind of I just wanted to do it like as a form of community for people. I call it walks of life. It's for all types of people to feel included in, like, going for a walk can be very, I already used this word earlier. It's good for you, not necessarily just to exercise, just like to get out and let your mind observe different things. And I have been doing it a lot since the pandemic started, and I started having people join me. And I have this little community that we go for walks and we just chat. But I wanted to start other communities and I haven't been able to. Like uh I wanted to do a group of, so I'm into like modern dance.
Cool.
And when I went to CCM, we had this modern dance class as part of our curriculum, where people would do exercises that fed off of each other's movements.
Hmm.
And it created a great sense of uh, community, without like speaking to other people.
Yeah.
Um, and I've wanted to replicate that in New York City. I feel like I haven't been able to because of COVID. But I
Hmm.
hope to do it one day where different artists come together and they do this exercise called flock of geese. Have you heard of this before?
I don't think so.
Okay. And so one person is a leader
Hmm.
and they move and everyone behind them moves. And like a flock of geese, when the direction is changed, whoever's in the front becomes the new leader. And then whoever just happens to be at the most like front tip of the group just becomes the new leader. And you just follow the other person's movements.
Oh,
And that's,
cool.
yeah, it's the most amazing thing in the world. And it's just like good technique for improvising on stage, like being comfortable in your body and moving around. So that's something that I hope to start. uh
I want to
Now
do
COVID is,
it.
yeah.
Yeah,
i wanted
totally.
i, I want to do it probably when the summer comes, when it's warm, so it could be an outdoor thing to be safer, and
Yeah.
I was just gonna start it like in Central Park or Astoria Park or something. um
Sweet. That'd be really fun.
yeah, yeah. That's my theme. Okay, your turn.
Um, yeah, I mean, I realized I've been super bad at creating community. I mean, I have been in like someone else's book club once. You know what I mean? And like there is like a group of friends that all did the same summer gig for like 9 summers that we all play this one card game. And so like that we try like even when we're not on the summer gig to like have maybe every month or two like a card night, but that's literally it. I just think that like living in New York is like the double whammy of like all of your friends are super busy and it's like transportation wise it's just super hard to like plan things. It's like if you lived in any other place, you would get in your car and you'd be at your friend's house in 10 minutes or 15
Yeah.
minutes. But like everything is just like such a trip here. And also because our schedules are so varied, like, you were talking about running groups. I've been a pretty serious runner at certain points in my life. But I never joined like a regular group because I was like, okay, if I pick a group that runs on like Tuesday mornings, I might have one Tuesday morning a month free,
Mhm.
but the other days I'll have a rehearsal or something. Like it's so
Mhm.
hard with our lives to have something that feels regular. I mean, I think doing something like QVL, like I nobody loves sitting on. Oh, hi, kitty. He's going for a walk.
Meow.
Um, Nobody loves being on like long Zoom meetings, but there's also something great about that format because we can be anywhere and we can do it. Um,
Right.
it's really hard to get a lot of working artists in the same room to do a thing.
Totally.
you
Absolutely.
know,
And
so
isn't it crazy that like sometimes when you're out of New York City, you'll like meet someone that is here, but because you're both out of New York City, somewhere else, you're like, "Oh my gosh, are you here too? Let's
right.
go out." And it's like we live in the same city normally. Like, I
Absolutely
have
happens all
no
the
time
time.
for you when I'm here.
Exactly.
It's so funny. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I think being in New York City makes it hard to create community. That's as well. I think that's part of the challenge.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I think we have two more. You want to do two more?
Okay.
I think I'm down. Um,
Okay.
this is a good one. Reflect on any post pandemic lessons you feel we have learned or failed to learn, whether in the singing industry or elsewhere.
Mm.
Hmm.
Uh, put yourself before. Oh gosh, my video's out. Hold on a second. Hello.
There you are. You're back.
Um, put your instincts. Put your instincts before someone else's. Um, whatever someone else is requiring of you, is asking of you. I feel like that's something. What was the question? What have you?
Post pandemic lesson that we've learned or failed to learn.
Okay, yeah. I feel so. What I mean is, uh, if you feel like what we already touched on, like a certain gig is not something you need to be doing, or if somebody is asking you to do something on a gig that is unfair, like listen to your instincts instead of just going with the flow. Uh, I don't know. I've spoken about this kind of thing, I think, pretty firmly in the group sometimes, which I learned also from previous experiences since before the pandemic happened. Um, because when the pandemic happened, a lot of us lost our artistic lives just completely in like one shot. And then
Yeah.
we were all questioning our purpose, in a way,
Right.
and our identity. Um, so that taught me that we must have a purpose and an identity and morals and standards that we set for ourselves, and we need to solidify those outside of being a performer, so that whenever we do perform, we stay true to uh,
Hmm.
those things that we have discovered about ourselves. Because at any moment in your life, whether a pandemic or some other difficult life experience might hit you, and the theater is just going to replace you with somebody else. So why would you ever put some other theater before your own personal needs And, you know, that's what I've learned.
Such a good answer. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I think mine are in the realm of things we've already talked about, which is like being more comfortable saying no to things, which sort of goes along with what you're saying, but just like if what you need is to not do that gig, then say no. Um,
Mhm.
and also, I think just like, and this is again, it all ties in. It's all of the same piece. Just stopping and making time for yourself if you need to,
Mm,
whether that is going for a walk or watching stupid TV or like do you like whatever your version of self care is, but like it is in fact more important than working every minute of the day.
right, right.
You know?
And
Yeah.
also, like when I just touched briefly, just I said, and your morals, like sometimes in a rehearsal space, something unacceptable will happen, you know, whether it's like some form of maybe like mild sexual harassment, either a court happening towards you or you're witnessing it,
Yeah.
or, something racially inappropriate. Um, I feel like a lot of times, as somebody witnessing this or somebody who's being directly targeted, we know inherently what's wrong, but we are
Mm-hmm.
so used to just being, as a singer, just being like, let me just be as perfect and non-confrontational as possible. That sometimes overshadows us knowing, that something in the room is wrong. And
Right.
I feel like this is something that we've been talking about a lot and that we've learned about. And I just I don't have patience for it anymore, and I don't care if I have to just completely drop out of the gig if I see something wrong, and I have to say something. So that's a very
Yeah.
important lesson for sure.
Yeah. Just that some things are more important than being the perfect little singer.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Um, yeah, I think I'm up for one more. You up for one
All
more?
right. If it's a good one, sure.
I think it's a good one. In
Okay.
light of your time in QVL, what would you tell someone who wants to start their own support community?
Mm. You have thoughts?
I do. I thought this was a great
Okay.
question, actually.
All right.
Um, I would definitely say go for it. Um,
Hmm.
and I would say don't be afraid if there are some bumps or some resistance, especially in the beginning. It's okay to not know exactly what the group is going to be doing or what it's going to look like right away. Um, and I think along with that, something that I've really come to learn in QVL meetings is to like not be afraid of silence. I
Mm,
feel like so much of our interaction as singers is like again kind of being on and like always filling the space,
mm.
feeling like quiet time is sort of a bad thing. And I feel like there are moments in our meetings where we just sit with each other and like
So true.
let a comment or a thought just kind of like sit with us and it there's no pressure to react right away. Um, so I think that yeah, I think that's kind of my biggest advice. Like, don't if you feel like it's a safe space, like don't be afraid to communicate anything. And then also don't be afraid to just like sit there and be in the moment.
Yeah, we do have silent times, and it's totally normal.
Yeah. In a way that it isn't really like anywhere else in my life, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Always like, oh, I have to say something now. There's like 2 seconds of
Yeah.
nothing being said. Um, yeah, I don't honestly, I would love to start more communities similar to QVL, but we're just so lucky that
Yeah.
we found, like, I mean, obviously Kelvin and Kathy chose us. We are the chosen ones.
It's true.
But yeah, I I'm sure it can be replicated, but we have a really good, there I use the word vibe
Yeah,
going on.
for sure.
There's just like this mutual respect, um, no shade,
Right.
happening. And like if anyone expresses something, so far, I feel like nothing has ever been taken like in a disrespectful way by anyone, because everyone has always, like, even just with social skills, like, okay, I'm going to, oh, cat might get in the picture. I'm going to, like, I'm
Hey,
first
kitty.
gonna say, like, meow, this is Gus.
Hi, Gus.
Like sometimes we say, look, oh, I'm gonna discuss something, it might be a little bit sensitive, like we'll give some kind of warning or something. Like we're always very aware um of the space and like being sensitive to each other. And I think that maybe that's a good thing to have in mind if you uh do want to start a group, is to, like, before you speak, maybe give some kind of meow, you want to pet me, like, you want to do this now. I'm not gonna
We're almost
pet him
done, Gus. I promise.
I I'm not gonna pet him, because then he's very good with the social cues. If I don't, better than some humans. If I
Right.
don't pet him, he's just like, okay, I'll come back later.
Good for him.
Yeah. But I feel like I don't know, like there's always, like, how we start off the meetings, we always have these reminders of this, how you're gonna act right in here, you know what I mean? But
Yeah, the
it's
fact that
not
we have
said
we
that
have
way.
rules for our meetings that we actually like created together. Yeah,
Right.
I didn't even occur to me to talk about that, but of course, like that's part of why the community works the way that it does. Is like we have
Yeah.
expectations for how to behave. You know?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And it's not said the way that I said it, but basically it's like you better act right, in a nice way,
No,
you
that's the
know.
perfect way to say it.
Yeah. So yeah,
uh,
I would say that. But it will be hard.
yeah,
It would be hard to find enough to, like, create such a great group again, I feel. Uh just
it
because we're
would, but I
lucky.
do think it's possible.
Yeah, 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 it's possible.
For sure.
Totally.
Well, cool, Melissa.
Close it.
I think we did it.
We did really great, even though
Totally.
we're tired and busy, and we still had time to talk to each other. Yay.
I know, in December, no less. Go us.
That's how
We're
I
going to make it.
feel. Yes, New Year's
All
is
right.
coming soon.
Well,
Okay.
enjoy the rest of your day. It was great to talk to you.
Ditto.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.